45-minute sessions. But Cole was totally like, just bring it on, you know, we whipped through it, I think we got it done in 35 minutes. Yeah, but he's also pretty strong right now in all his skills, and he knows it, so, okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Get rid of the stuff that I need to retrieve back.
Right, and maybe you this too, so it doesn't get
Thank you.
scooped up in mine.
And Laura, we're gonna schedule the day like month by month, or should we just count on the third Mondays?
I feel like, with the new year rolling around, at the 14th, we should schedule after New Year's.
Okay,
I don't feel
okay,
like we should do
good,
that now.
okay, and that's the only thing Susie asked, is just
Yeah.
for me to let her know, but that should be fine with that.
Susan Woolley, Susan?
No, my
Your-
boss.
oh,
Susie
okay.
got it.
Is it okay to just
Oh,
do
oh,
Monday
yeah.
then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that'll be fine. She
Okay.
just said, just to let her know.
Okay, quick items, PTO funds, I ordered extras of things, I actually got the check today, I spent $156, out of our 500. Did you
Better
submit
turn that-
yours?
No, I better turn it in, cause I
Turn it
have
in.
a lot of money now.
Do you, how much do you have? About,
I
okay,
I have
But-
$24 for
got over
magnetic tape.
yeah, but I did that and it wasn't 170 just for me, I kinda polled people and said, what do you need, and I doled
Right,
out
that's
some
Right.
magnetic tape, some plastic letters, and I have extras. I just cushioned it and figured I'm not taking more than half of it, and then that leaves people, if they need it, to just come and get it. And,
And did you need to do it on the school reimbursement form?
I gave her just my receipts and the form of payment that it was on.
Okay.
She
'Cause I
said
have
she'd
that
take care of
ready, but
it.
I was gonna do it on
Just
the
go
other
right to
side.
Karen.
Okay.
So if you want anything, just let me know, I may have it before we even have to order it.
And
Any-
you ordered book twos, right? We're almost.
I did, I submitted it, but it's gonna go like the snail mail way, because I had to put it in Doreen's box, and I don't know what happens when that happens.
And they take so long too.
So this is some video.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's submitted.
Thank you.
What that means, I don't know. But if you need some in the meantime, if you get to it, like you guys are really close, I can get out of my stock. I have some
You have some
of the
pictures?
the bound ones, the spiral
Okay,
bound
okay.
ones.
Just a copy or something.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Or if I have enough, you're welcome to have them. Just a request, if you're come up with any like cool ways to to do the lessons, any of those like smartboard charts or things like that, if you can pump them to me, and then I'll share them to everybody. Like whoever put up the ABC chart on the scanning, I think that was Jamie.
Do you
Yeah.
have it on both sides? You have the
I don't have
upper
the lowercase.
We should get that.
We
'cause
should
I
do
don't
the
have that either.
lowercase.
I
yeah.
have it. I don't
So
have
those
it.
kinds of
Yeah.
things.
The technology in our room, because we're not taking advantage of all these great things, or if we switch out, maybe.
Well, you
sometimes
guys can rotate into my room sometimes.
Yeah, and there actually was a question about when people are getting technology, like
It's
the
supposed
rest
to
of the
tell us,
people, and they're
right?
gonna let you know.
Mine's not hooked up, it's just a whiteboard and a projector right now. It's
And
not,
that's all
there's no
mine is.
video, it's just like this,
Yeah,
so.
that's all I have, I don't have the
You have a
video.
whiteboard.
If
Little
anyone
ones.
ends up doing this, since we made the decision to meld the handwriting without tears
Yeah.
with our program, if anyone has any kind of efficient way, I am struggling with that because I'm like, I don't know where the page is, and then I'm like, I don't know these words, because I missed the training.
Bring it.
But I'm
Where's-
wondering if, like, over the course of time, if we can come up with some little neat feature to have accessible.
Maybe we
We
should
do,
do.
we're doing little, like, sheets for each letter as we go through, we're making the explanations and then we can just refer to them, so.
And you're
maybe
putting that in your manual?
It's on a little sticky, but we could make it more.
So I wonder if we could photocopy that
I
or
mean,
something.
what I'd like to do is maybe compile all that and, do the letter, handwritten, then write what we need to say for that, and then have that as a shared.
Are you guys
Sheet to put in
talking
the-
about cursive or?
Person.
We're doing both.
Because one thing I know, just based on what's coming home, and some of the grade levels that are doing it have already put together packets to send home to parents on how, on the little rhyme that you say with it.
Right,
For
like
the-
go
They
up,
have?
down,
Yeah,
bump,
so I'm saying before
For
we.
print or cursive?
For both, I've seen it for both.
Yeah, I
Check
think it's out there.
Fourth grade
Okay, we
is
need to
really
find
big, I think, on cursive, and first grade has got it nailed for print, I'm not sure, I don't
I'm
think.
just using the directions in the book, isn't that what we would be doing?
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
have kind of put it, I
A
have
quick
seen it on a
reference.
sheet, just a
Okay.
single two-sided sheet. So I think before we consolidate it into something efficient, we
There's
should
it,
make
I have
sure
it.
that it's not already been done.
Right.
Yeah.
What, even if it is
Or
done
even
though, what
talking to
I'd like to do
Karen,
is then
okay.
re-sequence it.
Yes.
With each
According
lesson.
to
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
so that we,
MRI.
you know, take that, cross-reference it, and then just shuffle the order around, so that we then have our,
Right, and
So-
I've been putting the connector on there to go up, or,
Perfect.
and that's not
That's
on
what I'm
their
thinking.
sheet, I bet, 'cause
Right.
they do the connectors
right,
later.
cause we agreed that we wanna do handwriting without tears, but we wanna introduce the four,
Sequence.
start
And they're still
approaches.
doing that. But I'm not.
But I'm,
looking at
instead
it
of
as
saying
that's
your
what
start
it is.
approaches, I'm saying connect.
That's fine.
And they're looking at whether it's a toe, or whether they're just coming up from the bottom, when they're actually connecting it in words.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're just,
When you're doing the isolated letter though.
yeah, when they're doing the isolated, they're just saying connect. So they're going either up, like on the U, they're starting, here's the arrow, because the regular letter starts here, comes down, goes up and away. But I'm
Okay.
saying connect, but they have to go up like that.
Okay, that's a
Away.
swing up stop.
Yeah, it's a swing up
But what if
stop.
you had the L?
The L is,
Way up loop left.
but they,
and travel
theirs starts down there already,
Okay,
so that's not a problem.
okay,
And theirs says go up, turn, back down,
okay.
so it's okay. The ones that are tricky, I guess, would be, well, all those, whatever this is, swing up, stop. But rather than, I'm saying connect, I don't know if that's easier. Swing up, stop seems like a lot of words, but then that would be okay.
Well, there's only four.
Yeah, swing up, stop.
So swing up, stop, curve way up, loop left, under, over, stop, and push up, over, down.
Push up, over, down.
So an N, for example, push up, over, down, push up, over, down.
Okay, but see,
release.
theirs would already start like that, so they
Okay.
go up and over, so it's basically the same. So
Okay.
whatever direction, so the only ones that would be, cause the loop is there, that push up over, this one, and the other one. The
But you
swing up
wanna,
stop.
but we agreed to use the language for the starting
Yeah.
thing,
Right.
We need to do that.
It's not too much of an issue right now, as long as we have an approach stroke. I'd love for us to be able to be flexible for the future if we start trading groups. So that we take care of each other down the road. Like if I inherit a group from Julie, that, well, that's not the way Julie did it, like, if we keep our
Right.
practices clean, like when something's new, that'll save us in the long run. But it's also something that we're kinda chewing on and working with how to do, so.
Right, and like this program says release, and they say travel away, so I'm just automatically doing the travel away.
And in all honesty, I'm using this language, because I just
used
don't
to it.
have that in my brain.
I don't have that, so it's okay
Right.
to try something new.
That's
Right.
the problem with us.
It's whatever is easiest.
Okay. So, I have planned to kind of just share some new learnings with you. So is everybody kind of near the end of, like, you've muddled through book one, it's mostly the consonant pairs, short vowels, open and closed syllables. Pretty comfy with the,
I'm a little behind with my,
I think I'm on 11.
I'm right around 10, so I'm like more
but as
than
you're coming
that,
to the new
but
learning, like, are you able to make sense out of it? Like, it's not too mind-blowing, it's not,
No.
like, you know how to auditorily present it, then visually present it, nothing's too complicated.
And it's starting to feel a little more routine to me now. I'm starting to, before I was still in my own discovery, oh, I see, this is the reading part, and this is the spelling part, and this is,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I kinda knew that from the summer. I figured that out, but as you're going through it, you kinda,
Yeah,
now it feels a little more
good,
automatic.
Good.
And the linkage thing that you did last time
good.
helped me tighten that up, because I think I was sailing off onto practice before I stopped and did the
Yeah.
linkages.
And
so.
you'll forget things and not even know you forgot it. So that's why it is really good to continue to seek the manual as your guide. And if, you know, if you're the person who likes to write out your lesson plan, follow the teacher guide to do that, because then you're sure to get all those pieces in and your sequence will build internally for you.
Right.
The other thing that shows up for me is the concept, the new concepts, those things, like, cause I know we had our own, we each did our own kind of lesson, but we each picked a concept, or, I mean, we were assigned a lesson
I think
for
we
lack of a
assigned
better
you
word.
mostly like, a new letter pair.
Right.
We stayed away from anything that was like a concept related with learning.
So when you come to the, as you're going through, you're like, oh, there's a
That's a
concept. This
different
is
way
the-
of thinking,
Yeah.
right? That's a different presentation, cause kids just aren't, it's more technical and more situational than just P and B, T and D, F and B. Those are pretty straightforward when you have those pairs, that's the nice part of the presenting. But then, for example, it starts in lesson 14, your spelling practice. If you turn to lesson 14, if you have your book,
I'll be right.
I had a
Oh, yeah,
question
there's
before we
new
go to
learning.
14. On the wrap, are we supposed to try to do with all of them?
no. Today's the first day that I made it through a whole lesson with Gianni, one-on-one situation. And,
Excuse me.
bless you. We start at 10, we started at 10:40 today. It was usually 10:35 and we have until 11:30. And what I
Wow.
intentionally did was skip some of the practices. I made choices. And so we learned, L and R. And so it had blends with, GR, EL, you know, he was
Wow.
struggling with that. So I selected those rap sheets. I skipped just the CBC where it was rap, rip, run. I skipped that because he's fine with that. And I selected to do like the second sheet because I knew that would be trickier for him. And it was. And we spent a little time there before I moved on. And that's up to you to decide, and that's based on your group. And you get a sense of, do you need to just start easy and go through the whole thing? Or can you go to the hardest one, knowing that they start easier and get more progressively difficult? Can you, with your group, consistently go to that most difficult one? If you can, do it. You don't need to practice what they already know. You're gonna like really kind of focus on things that would be difficult for them and guide them through that. So, yeah, I almost never do, all of the rap. I will do just the top chunk. I will do the top chunk of 3 different pages. Instead of the whole thing, that's gonna suck up time. Rap is recommended for sending home for homework. And I think it's also an awesome thing. I mean, I've had some conferences in the last 2 weeks where teachers are wanting an opportunity to do that with them. So that would be great. It's tricky to communicate all the time when you're doing that and what they need to do, but I think if we can get teachers on board with knowing the sequence of what the kids are learning, then they're attached to it too, and gaining a sense of it. And so there's another way that we can get somebody else hooked into helping the kid do practice, besides just ourselves in the group. So you can send it home for homework and. So, in 14 on the spelling practice, the very last, preparation is that it says when you hear a consonant and then a final position sound, you will spell it with a K. You've not even taught them that yet. This
Where
just
is that?
comes up.
Oh, it's
Spelling practice.
124.
Yeah, so you're right there, you have it highlighted, because we talked about it in the summer, but you probably just don't remember that. So you've got to look ahead at your spelling practice and figure out what is new learning. Not all lessons will give you that big visual piece and say, ooh, you haven't taught this before, you've gotta, you have to kind of bring that explicitly to them, and I'll say this, and my kids are used to this and the reference of it, you saw that today, I was kind of guiding them, saying, this is this example, you know, I was cueing them and prompting them. But I would say I'm gonna do one, for example, if the word is, pink. And for this situation in particular, they blend, and a lot of kids hear the E sound for pink. They'll put two E's in there, or an E, whatever. You go p, I, k. So here they hear a consonant sound and a final k. So p, I, k.
Wait, I have a question. So that doesn't, I was taking that to mean that the consonant immediately is followed by the k.
Yep.
Okay, so,
Consonant sound.
right, so the is not the consonant sound we are
Right before the
referring
final K.
to.
It's this one.
Okay, okay.
And you'll have to point that out,
That's
what
right.
you might have to show them what they're listening for. So, if you hear a final k, so pink, k, ooh, that is the final sound. Let's go back and tap it out. I, k, ooh, that's a consonant. So you have to almost think out and show them, teach them what you're thinking, teach them what this means explicitly before you ask them to spell it. Lynn and I have been having this experience where she's using it as a test before we've even taught, like we're teaching it now. You're teaching it, you're guiding them, you want them to get it right. You're gonna do whatever you need to do for them to get it right. You're not gonna totally watch them get it wrong, and then after they've done 12 words wrong, tell them what they've done wrong. This is your teachable moment. And so, you're gonna intervene with some prompting here. You know, if you see a child doing something wrong,
So have they learned something else for the k? They haven't learned anything else yet, have they? So
lesson
CK?
14.
They haven't learned CK.
I don't think they've learned anything, so it's just kind of preparing for when they
Right.
learn later.
Right,
you know,
cause when you
the-
get to the
the
other
C.
choices, you're gonna bring this in,
You bring it back.
and then
yeah.
you're gonna say, it happened today in my group, when you hear a short vowel sound, followed by a final k in a one syllable base word, you will spell it CK. So now you've got two things going on, and what they're listening for is it a short vowel or is it a consonant? And even though you're not asking them to decipher this yet, you're building that foundation, because that's eventually how technical it will get. You know, in the same practice, you might say, in the initial medial position, if you hear k before an A, an O, a U, or any consonant, you will spell it as a C. If you hear a k before an E, an I, or a Y, you will spell it a K. So if you have the word kick, k, ick, okay, you've got an initial k. Is it a C or a K? K, K. Is it a K or a CK? Well, it's after a short vowel, must be a CK. So you're kind of always going back to those structures. It will become internal, but it takes a while. This is the weakest, these situations is what they stumble on the most and will not show you consistently in an assessment. And so you'll always go back to remind them of what those things are. It's not a one-time lesson. Which is why if you build this brick right here, keep bringing it along with you as you add the other layers on, it's gonna stay with you and with them more. If you do a nice job with it when you're introducing it for the first time. You could also just say, in today's lesson, when you hear k at the end, you're gonna spell it with a K. You can do that. But you're missing the power of why. And so that's where you have to be really critical looking ahead to your spelling practice and this preparation. It's nice that it's there. It didn't used to be in the old curriculum. You used to have to look at your list and figure out what is it I need to bring to their surface. So that's a pretty powerful little nugget in your lesson, that when you're thinking about teaching it, pay attention to this. And then look down and figure out, why did they write all this? And you'll see an example of every rule within there. And it shows the kids too that when we do spelling practice within the context of these lessons, it is rule-based, it is based on the sounds that we've learned. Because kids will say, well, what about CK? And it happened today. Fernando said something about, he asked and we hadn't learned it yet. And I said, awesome, you already know it, hang on to that. We're not there yet, but you know that, but not today, we're not practicing that. So you can acknowledge that, and they know more. They know more than you're isolating them to right now. But you're driving the practice to be so specific that, you know, if they're wrong, you know, you're not always gonna intervene if they get a mistake. If they say, kick, I would let that mistake happen. And I would say, Haley, tell me how you spelled that. And she would say C-I-C-K. And she would be so convinced that she was right. And all the kids would be like, what? You know, and they know by now that I put up mistakes. And I'll go, hang on. So you have a k in the initial position. So our choices for k are C or K. It depends on what comes after it. What do you have after it? And by then she already knows where you're going. You're leading her to the situation. She says it needs to be a K, and she's already erasing it. So, okay, boys and girls, it's really spelled K-I-C-K. Haley, you gotta make sure you're paying attention to these rules. Let's see if next time you can get it right. So those are fine teachable moments, and I encourage that opportunity for each one of them to do that wrong publicly. And to force them to think with me out loud.
Can you explain the first one again, the equals C? What is the C there? It's before the A?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, if you hear k
Uh-huh.
before an A,
Uh-huh.
an O, a U, or any consonant,
Or any consonant, okay. Any,
uppercase C is a consonant,
okay.
any consonant sound, you will spell it k. And I would go so far, maybe when I first introduce this, when you first see it in your prep,
So in a
so
blend,
give
it's
them an
gonna-
example, like in cap, because there's an A. Like in cop, because there's an O. Like in cup, because there's a U. And like in clam, because the letter L is a consonant.
Okay.
So all of these have the C because there's an A, O, U, or any consonant. And then I would, you know, give them some examples here. I wouldn't leave all of this up. I would use that to teach and reinforce in my prep. I'd probably get rid of all that. All the excess, this stuff is important, and it should be on your board when you're doing your reading practice because it's a reference for them. If I fail to put it up there, they will look down here. They're looking for those pieces, those reminders, because it's still not solidified in their head. And here's not a great place to look because this is how to code it for reading. So this is kind of the reverse. Think of this as when you hear, you will spell it this way. When you hear this, you will spell it this way. Because that's what you're setting them up to do. So train yourself to kind of use that language.
On some of these, we don't have that written anywhere, what these all mean, do we?
I
I
mean, you
mean,
mean all the jargon of that?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
how to say this?
Right.
Yeah.
No, and this is where Sarah was encouraging you to make up concept cards.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I think I need to do that. And
it's helpful
Mhm.
if you don't have that internal to yourself. I believe that Lynn's made herself up some concept cards. Until that gets into your language really fluidly,
So
it's
say
a good
this one
idea.
about the NG and the K, so.
Okay, here,
You
here.
usually for
When you
spelled
hear,
NK.
when you hear
I mean,
anything that's in parentheses, I call them
Just
ears.
ears,
Okay.
Sounds.
So if you hear before k,
Oh, before,
you will
okay.
spell it and
And,
oh,
And you can
so
code it with the
yeah.
detail, can you write,
you will
can
spell
say
it
that?
N, and if you code it, you may code it with a G.
And so she just does it on index cards for herself, or does she have the kids say it?
I think she's doing it for herself.
okay, and then she writes the whole thing out. I do it on the other side. I've done a few, but I haven't done these
You
higher
could
level.
put your, if you build concept cards, a good idea is to put them into your reading deck
Oh,
for
good.
some of those certain
Okay.
situations.
I
If
need
you
to do
do,
that.
like, a concept card would be, V is a vowel, uppercase C is a consonant, suffixes.
Initial, medial, final, yeah.
You know, anything that's like a definition or something. A consonant digraph is two consonants that come together to make one sound. You're just reminding them of all the parts and pieces that they're learning. And you could review that, you know, a couple times a week, every day if you need to.
Okay.
You'll naturally do it in here once you get this down.
Okay.
But as a training piece for you, it's a good idea, and for your kids to help you
Okay.
all kind of understand. This is very cryptic, but your kids will understand
Sure.
it when you're consistent with your own language of it.
Consistently.
Yeah. If you say it different all the time, and you're not exactly sure what
Right.
you're communicating, they will be confused. And it will be, they may have gotten things right that you now forced them to get wrong, because you didn't have your thoughts together. So, this thing usually makes noise when I don't have my thing on mute. And the birds sing and all the water goes and the kids are like, oh, it's so awesome, and it's like really loud. But it is very pretty.
It is nice.
And I like it. So, okay, so can somebody just hit it so I can see what I wanted to go over next? Lesson 18, the WA situation. So, situations are things that depend on the letter combination, like N before K. It's a situation. It's not a consonant digraph. Kids will want it to be because that makes sense to them. But you tell them it's a situation because N only says before a K. It's a situation. So WA, lesson 18, is a situation.
So today when I did the spelling deck, and I said, they were supposed to write NG and comma N. Can I put the tail on if they want?
Sure.
Okay.
NG, comma N. What I've done sometimes for kids that I want them to remember that situation, I would put before a K.
I wondered about a K, yeah. If you could
You
put
know,
that
like
in.
I don't put it in as big, it's not part of the letter, but it's a reminder that it's before a K.
'Cause that's the only time, right?
Yep. No,
So that's a situation.
it's a situation.
Yeah. Not a day, but consonant.
It's not a rule, it's a situation.
So we don't say consonant digraph NG?
We do on
Yes.
NG.
Oh, when it's NG, but not
It's
when
when
it's
it's
okay.
N.
Right. Right. And you're all remembering now, like, once you've taught NG and before K, that you keep those together in your reading deck, right?
Just like TH, like,
Right, right. Okay. So you start traditionally with your auditory discovery, so I'm gonna say some words, echo please. And if you look at number 18, if you're on that page, what's the very first word?
we crossed it out and we changed it to one.
We did it already?
Yeah, 'cause was, has the
Did we do this in the summer?
Yeah.
Oh, good, then this is review. I don't remember
It's
doing
good
it.
review.
Okay, it was. Cross it out. And there's a couple mistakes in this book you'll find. They're not huge, there's not a lot of them,
Yeah.
but things that make you go, they're there.
Well,
And you
like
can
I
just work
say-
around them.
I say want with the instead of a want.
Want,
So if I need to say want, I've gotta make the
Want.
for this rule.
you should.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm willing to change.
At least for that hour.
Yes.
So
Same
what
with
should
the
that first
Fs and
word
the
be
As.
changed to? Cause I still
Just
have
knock it
was
out.
there.
I made it wand,
Want.
and it's also in your Code and Read book, in the student book.
And you have to cross that out too. Yeah, we have it here.
Yeah. And I often will make them circle it because we circle red words. I'll say that's a red word. Let's think about how that would sound. Wa-uz. Wa-uz. That does not follow what we just learned, so
Okay.
that's a mistake. You point out these people are not always right. And they like that too. Because then they'll start looking and being really critical and finding other things. And they ask awesome questions.
We've gotten a lot of, why are we circling is? And tell me if this is the right answer, because if we haven't learned this sound yet.
And you will, and it won't be a red word anymore.
Yeah.
Right, okay, just making sure.
Yep, you're gonna learn that, after a vowel, the S can be voiced, and you'll code it this way. and it won't be a red word anymore.
Okay.
Actually, there was a word that we had that used to be a red word, and it wasn't anymore, and the kid brought it up, isn't that a red word? We had that as a red word. I said, yeah, but then we learned
That,
that.
yeah, because they brought it up.
Yeah, and I
Then
said, we
we
know how to
said, no,
count that
we don't have to do
now.
that as a red word anymore, so
Right.
we got the TH.
At.
Yep.
So as soon as it becomes clear that you've taught it and you know you have, then it doesn't come into
They were
play
so
as a red
sour.
word.
Oh, we don't have to.
Yeah.
We can code it.
So here, I mean, I wanted him to put an X through it, but he kinda went a little crazy with that. So anywhere there was
In the book.
yeah. So, I call that a red word. So then when you get to the spelling piece of this, I won't spend too much time with the auditory visual discovery. Actually, let me do a little bit of the visual discovery. What you'll wanna do, and what I notice sometimes, even when I'm new to a skill, I wanna talk too much through it instead of letting the kids figure out the situation. So, they've already echoed it, and here it is, wand, W-A-N-D, W-A-S-P, and W-A-N-T. And they've already told me that they hear ah, and we know that is O. So, what vowel do you see that's the same in all of these? What some people will ironically do is, they'll go in and say, do you see the A? After a W it says ah. Do you see that? Do you see that? And you're telling them, and what you wanna do is just play dumb, and you wanna step back and go, we heard ah, but what do you see? And they own it more. They remember it more when they figured it out themselves. Honestly. If you tell them, it's like, oh, you need to remember all this. Whereas if they can be critically, if you're training them to think like that, they're gonna remember it much more. That's the power of the discovery piece. And so they see that it's an A, and it sounds like ah. So A can sound like ah. What else do you see? So we figured that out, but when is it gonna sound like ah? And they may see the W before it. You may have to guide them to it. You might see, well, what comes just before it? A W. Oh, how about here? Oh, a W. Oh, a W. And you just point out all the consistencies, and then you get to say, when you have a W before an A, the A will sound like ah. And so we're gonna code it differently. And then that's when we do this. And they're pretty blown away with that. What do you guys call it? I call it 2 dots, but I know it's
Umlaut? It's an umlaut.
a what?
It's a German umlaut.
Is it? You sure that's what it says?
I definitely know that they don't call it that.
Yeah, we don't, I don't think
We
it's-
wrote it down somewhere.
I don't
but
think
they
there's
wrote
any,
it.
but
It's
yeah,
not
umlaut.
the dimple.
Diuresis.
Diuresis.
that's
I stay away from that word. I am not going there with 4th graders.
Yeah.
Jackson,
I'm gonna call it
no way. So I say 2 dots, or they say 2 eyes, or, we try to come up with one way that group will remember it that
2
way.
dimples.
Dimples.
Because I got the
2
tittles and
tails.
the dimples.
Yeah.
What though, one of our
My
TJ,
kids go
did you
dimples.
hear that one time they were like, you code it with a nipple? I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, a nipple.
Mama keeps saying that, code it with a nipple.
That's so funny.
I know, I haven't had that. I had the dimple, and I had the.
And then she's home having dinner with her mom,
Yeah.
saying,
Tittles,
tittles and nipples,
nipples,
and they reading.
Diuresis?
Yeah,
Oh,
I like to keep it
diuresis.
simple. I love
2 dots.
honeycomb, but other than that,
Eyes,
it's
2 dots.
fine. So, you'll notice in your manual that some of your preparation boxes are empty. So, this is where, when you're working in sequence and you get that sense of what you've taught, you're gonna wanna fill in the blanks of what you need to be reviewing for them before they go ahead to code. So for example, I wrote for this page, for the coding practice, remember that a vowel in a closed syllable is short, coded with a breathe. You always do that. vowel theme song. Vowel in an open, accented syllables long coded with a macron. If you hear, you will spell it. Oh no, this isn't spelling. Never mind, I'm kind of in that spelling track. Consonant digraph TH, we underline it. It's in the word 6-2, swath.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just reminding them. And the new learning you're always going to present in preparation. You're going to say, and when we see our new situation, when we see A after a W, we're going to code it with 2 dots. That's our feature today. We're going to pay really close attention to that because every word's going to have that. And then that's when it ends up landing down here as a reference for the future, so that I don't have to do this all every time. There will be one word that will have a situation, but I don't want to review every single thing we learned every time. I definitely want to review the new learning. I definitely want to review the vowel theme song. And then anything that I feel that they've struggled with, I'll always bring to the surface. But I always have some sort of reference, just in case they forgot something. They can ask a neighbor, they can check the chart before they ask me.